Josh Kraushaar has walked with us over the last 2 years as editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider. And I've been thinking, Josh, today about a lot of things after the announcement of the deal, including Rachel Goldberg-Pollan and John Pollan. Have you talked to any of the families of the hostages who have not made it back yet?
Yeah, I mean, look, we just had an interview with one of the released hostages who has been speaking to the president, speaking to other media outlets. But I mean, the testimony of just the horrible, just awful, unthinkable treatment that these hostages have been through for over 2 years now, and then within days, God willing, they will be released and free. And this is really a remarkable deal. I don't think this necessarily. There's a lot of other parts of the Trump plan that are in the trust but verify column in terms of the rebuilding of Gaza, the governance of Gaza. But my goodness, just having reported on, talked to, heard the plight of the hostages who have been sitting in these dungeons of Hamas for the last 2 years. This is a remarkable moment, and it's one that I think you can't overstate the role that President Trump played in putting pressure on a lot of the interlocutors, working with Israel very closely, the military operations that put Hamas, that really degraded Hamas to the point where it cried uncle. It's a remarkable moment, and it doesn't mean that there's going to be peace in the Middle East. It doesn't mean that Hamas. I mean, I think the key thing going forward is ensuring that Hamas no longer has any role in governance of Gaza. That's going to be hard to do, and it'll be a challenge. But that's the next step. But insofar as the hostages being set free in the next few days, that is a remarkable achievement, and one that has required a lot of diplomacy, a lot of hard work.
There are two keys, from my view, is Operation Midnight Hammer, especially the participation of the United States in destroying the nuclear sites in Iran, and then Israel's decision to strike the Hamas leadership, or try to, in Qatar, though I'm not sure how many of the Hamas leaders were killed. I think that brings peace through strength, the willingness to use force. And I expect that Israel's going to draw the same lesson about those who threaten it in the future. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the case, Hugh. And you think about what the pre-October 7th reality that Israel was facing, where it was surrounded, and it was made just so plain on October 7th that it was not just the attack, but then the fact that you had Hezbollah to the north, you had the Iranian threat and the nuclear threat still being very real. You had Assad running Syria and allied with Iran. You had the Houthis to the south. You had Hamas still very much in place, obviously just completing that October 7th terrorist attack. Now you basically have all those enemies either degraded or destroyed. And those military successes, which, people forget about very quickly. I mean, maybe not the pager attack, but just the hard work and the remarkable efforts from the IDF and Israeli intelligence taking out one by one the circle that Iranian-backed terrorist groups were causing towards Israel. And that pressure, and certainly the pressure against Hamas, which really, Israel never let up, to the point where it really lost a lot of international goodwill among some of its European allies. But they took the fight to Hamas. They degraded the terrorist group, and they put pressure on them to the point where this deal is quite a remarkable deal, in that the hostages are going to be returned, but also Israel's maintaining some presence in Gaza for security reasons, and they're not going to, they're not going to give up their security interests in exchange. They're maintaining.
They have a lot of tunnels to destroy. My question, Josh, Israel's exhausted. That's objectively true, and the reservists have been called up 6, 7, 8 times. I don't think it's time to have elections. I think it's time actually to just take a deep breath and start up again. How long is it going to take to get back to normal, assuming that the deal holds? They're still terrorists, so I don't know that we can assume that, but assuming that it does hold and the hostages come home and the IDF holds 50% of Gaza, how long till Israel gets back to, quote, normal?
Well, the next step is sort of the so-called phase 2, the questions about a lot of the other points in the Trump peace plan, which include taking Hamas out of Gaza, making sure that there's a transition to a more technocratic governance structure, which is, far from assured. It's going to take a lot of hard work and efforts. But this is definitely the release. Once every hostage returns home, hopefully by the beginning of next week, it's going to be the beginning of the end in terms of that one awful chapter in world history, in Israel's memory. And I think it allows, at least psychologically, the Israeli public to move on, to focus. I mean, and you're right, Hugh, that the IDF, the reservists, have been strained, to put it mildly. Israel's never been in this type of war posture for so long. And it's really put a strain on Israeli society. So just kind of getting closer to normal. I don't think we're ever going to, in the near term, get back to normal, given the scars in Israeli society. But we're getting closer to that point, and it puts closure on something that was it seemed like a never-ending scar.
I also assume that aid will flood Gaza, that if, in fact, Hamas is demilitarized, and that's a big if, that aid will flood into Gaza. Is that your expectation?
Well, that's the Trump plan. I mean, that's what's outlined in the deal. You also mentioned the politics too, Hugh, and this is clearly going to pass the Israeli. In fact, as we're speaking right now, the cabinet is discussing and about to vote on the plan, which is expected to pass overwhelmingly. But the problem politically for the prime minister is that if the very right-wing coalition partners, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, decide to pull out of the government, that could necessitate early elections and make it harder, for Netanyahu to get reelected or to have his party succeed in the next elections. So we'll see. Look, I think Trump said this at his cabinet meeting today, that Bibi may get a big bump from this deal, and we'll see how the politics shake out in Israel. But that's also going to be another step in this story in terms of, is there going to be a change in leadership?
Do you think there's any chance he might also just walk away and say, my job is done here. I've destroyed the Iranian nuclear threat. I've destroyed Hamas and Hezbollah. I'm 78 years old. Do you think he might do that?
It's interesting. I thought there were opportunities for the prime minister to do that after taking out Iran's, degrading Iran's nuclear program, call early elections. There were other off ramps if that was the move for the Israeli prime minister. My sense is that's not likely, but we'll see. And he's a political survivor, and he's someone who is beating the odds in Israeli politics, and it's going to be another test, that politically at least, coming up soon.
If he wants to go out on top, now's the time to go out, because politics will be politics. Right now, he's riding high. Josh Kraushaar, thank you. Follow Josh on X at Josh Kraushaar.